Don't take on credit card debt. Buy now, pay later is bad for you. Save at least 30% of your income for the future. Don't switch jobs too quickly. And whatever you do, don't even think about retiring early. The inflation calculators are going to be telling you that you need to work till you're 75. Okay, that last one is probably not true, but chances are that you've heard all of the other pieces of advice if you started working within the last decade. Usually, that advice is being given to you by someone older than you, and they're probably trying to get you to learn from their mistakes. But somewhere down the line, they forget why they made those mistakes in the first place. This is Moneywise on NDTV Profit, and we're going to talk about the real things, how you should save and sort out your finances when you're starting out. Vijai Mantri is joining me for this chat, and I also have a special guest to make sure that the advice that is dispensed today is relevant, my colleague Malika Mishra. Thank you so much to the both of you for joining. Malika, you didn't have a choice. But
yeah, I didn't.
But so the objective that I have is that we're going to speak about the challenges that individuals your age face and the opportunities that you have, because those opportunities which have not changed. I know that a lot of people told me when I was 21, 22 that you should start saving early. I only started when I was 29, and only recently I thought about why that was. I just simply didn't have the money. Do you face that challenge as well?
Of course I do. And as you said, that you started investing or saving at the age of 29, right? Which was way later. But what elders tell us is that we started late, so you should start early. Yeah. And this is the time you start. But how do you start when you don't have the money? And with inflation going as high as, I don't know, it's very difficult to save. There are so many categories as well, right? You get your income and then you have to pay your bills. And I'm not talking about those people who live in Bombay in their parents' house, but people like me who've migrated to a city like Bombay and are living by ourselves. It's really difficult to save.
I do have to correct you, it's Mumbai.
It's Mumbai, yeah.
But having said that, let's talk about that core issue. It's not changed, Vijay. When I started, I'm sure when you started as well, you had only so much. I'm not sure. You probably had more than I do.
Not at all. Inflation adjusts perhaps equal number. Everybody started, the baseline of the race is same. You know, you started the same starting point by and large. How do you finish that matter? Good or bad reason, my life was very different because I come from traditional Marwadi family and then I'm a chartered accountant. So saving was
in your blood.
In our blood. So I started saving from first salary. And I've seen this challenge with many people, and very honestly, it is because they believe in the formula that income minus expenses is saving. It has to be other way around, because investment comes first before saving, because there's a finite lifetime in which you can earn, but expenses are till we die and perhaps even after that. So expenses one need to control. And many times I've seen with young crowd is that the decision making is driven by the group thought processes. This my peer doing, this my batchmates are doing, this is doing. But many times we forget that the consequences, good or bad, are born individually. So whether we eat, what we eat, what we spend money, every individual have their own different backgrounds. So we can't compare. And just to her point, before she started earning, she was not earning anything.
Yes.
So she got the money. And how suddenly the expenses goes up with earning.
But having said that, I want to counter that because she pointed out, Malika, you pointed out that you moved cities.
I moved cities.
And so therefore, you were not spending earlier, you were living with your parents.
With my parents. So everything was taken care of.
And so therefore, now you have expenses. But to the point of what I've heard a lot of people between 21 and 24, 25 who've just started the last few years, they've gone through COVID-19 and experienced things differently.
Yeah.
But people who started earning before that, right?
Yeah.
And so YOLO is what I keep hearing. I don't want to save right now, I want to spend, I want instant gratification. Is that something that you've experienced?
I think I've seen that very much amongst my friends, where a lot of people have that ideology ki, I want to spend whatever I have now because I'm spending on experience and not the future. And that has become really important for the younger generation. But I am, on the other hand, I come from a minority where I do believe in investing and saving. But it is really difficult, is what I've seen. My personal journey with this investment and saving has been difficult.
Talk to me a little bit about that. Do you save right now? When did you start? And why do you say that it's difficult?
Okay, so let's talk about how Vijay sir said, right, that the approach should be your income minus your investment, and then comes your expenses, because that's the kind of priority you should be giving to investing. But it's not practical. Why? I'll tell you. When you get, say, 40,000, that's the salary that I started with, your rental itself, rental amount itself is 20,000. Then your cook charges you 5K. Then your travel is at least 5,000. How much are you left
30.
with?
You're 10.
10,000.
Right.
Do you not need 10,000 to at least travel to and fro to office every day for 25 days to work?
You said travel is 5,000.
Travel is, so travel, and you're also traveling elsewhere, right?
Sure.
You're also buying other things. Can you really say that this is my budget and this is what I'm going to stick with? That 10,000 you need for your other expenses. And from that, even if you remove like 2K and put it somewhere, now what the confusion arises is, should you put that 2K in a savings account or should you invest?
There you go. Okay, so this is a fantastic platform for us to start, right? Because if she's talking about 40,000, Vijay, my starting salary was 16,500. And okay.
Mine was much less. So we traveled, all of us traveled in the same boat. So mine was 1/3 of yours, and yours was 1/3 of her.
Right.
We lived in the same boat, actually.
But ultimately, the problem is the same.
Just travel 5 kilometers ahead.
Okay,
So instead of having in Bandra, you could go and stay somewhere else, save on the rent. So these are choices we make in our life. These are very conscious choices we make in our life.
Okay, so what you're saying is control the expenses so that you have a higher surplus, but ultimately you are looking at those expenses first, right? You're trying to control those expenses.
Yeah, as much as possible, because else it will not be possible. In the organization in which you work, also control cost. And you have seen the cost cutting come when the revenue is not growing. It happened in every organization. How you could be individually very different. Anybody youngster working in any company, they'll figure out that there were time where the expenses are no limit on the expenses, but the time get tough, then definitely when the company cut the cost. Even your parents has done. When they're building houses, by 1 kilo की जगह आधा लीटर दूध मंगाएंगे हम लोग. So these adjustments were done by your parents. So if you're really smart, young kids are very smart. If you're really smart, you learn from other people's mistakes. That's the first level. Second, you make your own mistake and learn from that. That is a little expensive. And third, you don't learn. So then that is a challenge. So
okay, but let's talk about some of these aspects and maybe help Malika as well in the process. A lot of her cohort and peer group. If you're talking about a 40,000 rupee income and expenses of 30,000, you're saying curtail that. Even if you curtail it, Vijay, let me assume that you can curtail it by 5,000 rupees, because more than that is going to be very difficult. Frankly, I've been there, I've lived it, I continue to live it, and I'm living on rent, so therefore I know that this is true. Rents have gone up in Mumbai. Now, if you have 15,000 rupees of a surplus which you've pushed through, how do you go about starting your investment journey, and where do you start?
So even just look at her own illustration. She was staying with the parent, and now she stays in Mumbai. So there was expenses, common expenses of the household. So when she moved out of the house, there's some saving there as well. You could look at that way as well. Your parents were earning, say, 50,000 and they were spending 30,000 rupees, and she was around there. And now they're spending 27, 28,000. So take part of that money. Second, you need to make conscious choices, and you're a starting salary, but you get increment, you get bonuses. Now, what you do with that money, that is also very important. Now, this year we have seen the tax rebate up to 12 lakh rupees of earning.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people are rightfully focusing that a lot of this money will go toward consumption, because that is what most youngsters would like to, to choose. Let's assume there was no tax rebate. What would you have done? And now this tax rebate, just put 2 buckets. 1st April 2025, we have a new rebate coming in.
Yeah.
Let's assume there was no rebate. You didn't have any choice but to pay taxes. But now that choice is given to you. So what would you do with that choice?
Yeah.
You would rather spend that money.
Yeah.
And at least, in my opinion, you should do 20% of your cost, of your expenses, you should put SIP.
20% of your cost, not 20% of...
Not of earning. If you're in difficult situation, whatever is your household expenses, put 20% of that as a SIP for 20 years. And if you do that, you can take 8 to 10 times after 20 years for next 40 years. So
Wow, okay, so that's possible.
Yeah,
to do.
so like say
20%
20% of 30,000, say,
Yeah,
is
6,000
rupees.
You should target. And second thing is very important to remember, Malika, that whenever you are spending money, just think of how much time it took you to earn that money.
Right.
So suppose you have 40,000 rupees, mean you 4,80,000 annual compensation, and suppose you got 1 lakh rupees bonus. Now, our temptation is to spend this one, like either trip somewhere or, buy expensive electronic equipment. And the question is that would you like to invest that 1 lakh rupees because it took you 365 days hard work to earn 1 lakh rupees, but how much time it does for you to spend that money? Just put that equation. So whenever you eat something, forget about, how much it costs. Also keep in mind that how much time it will take to consume whatever you ate, how much calories you need to burn. So put the same equation.
So I very well understand that, but I also want to know one thing which I've been very confused about, and I still am till date. So mutual fund investment is a concept that has just come, okay, that is just introduced. We're very new to it. And because of the internet, we're right now understanding this new strategy of saving money. But कहते हैं कि you should also have a pool for emergency, right? Now, if you are taking out 6,000 from your salary, which is also very difficult, but since agar kaise bhi you try and take out 6,000 and you invest, how should you build an emergency? Or should you first build an emergency and then go and invest in mutual funds?
So it depends on every individual. Suppose you come from a family where the emergency can be funded by the family, no problem.
Okay, but
it depends on every individual. So, but you don't have predictable cash flow, then you need to have at least 6 month expenses covered because people may lose job. There could be some health challenges. So at least 6 months to 12 months is what people should have. But youngster may look at 1 month or 2 month kind of thing.
You start somewhere.
It is not necessary that even that money need to be invested very smart. You don't put that money in saving account. At least put that into
a liquid fund. But you know what? So I've asked this question as well, Malika, and what the advice is that often the first step that you take to save is the hardest. And once you've gotten used to living with that much less every month, the way that I started, I think is the simplest way. And I know that there are so many ways to do it, Vijay, but I read a book which said you create different boxes. And I simply created a separate box for investments. And every month, as soon as I got my salary, I transferred a certain percentage out. And what Vijay is saying, 20% of your expenses is eminently possible to do.
Yeah.
In your illustration as well,
Definitely.
I think 6,000 rupees you can do. And so you transfer it out as soon as you've gotten your salary into an account that you don't touch. Keep the debit card aside, forget the PIN code.
Yeah.
Right? And so therefore you have access to that. Just for the first couple of months, 2-3 months, just let that keep going into that account without even thinking of a SIP. At least that's the way that I did it.
Also you can do one thing, because a lot of time, you create emergency fund, but you dip into the emergency fund for discretionary spending.
Yeah, what you shouldn't
that
do.
is also true.
But it happens because you see the amount lying there. And worst thing when you see the amount lying in a saving account.
Yeah.
Because you get SMSs
It's available
and you
to you.
say, okay, let me spend this money, let me transfer to my wallet.
So it takes a certain amount of discipline, right?
Definitely.
And the challenge is with it. It's not the question of challenge. Even youngster, the part of the brain which is responsible for discipline, the same part of the brain is also responsible for the pain we feel. So that's why being disciplined, feeling pain is by and large equal.
Oh wow, psychological. So I did not know this.
Yeah. So we come with limited cognitive abilities. Every youngster need to think that their health, there's a wealth, there's a career, there's social life, there's family life. They need to figure out what they are good at. Some people are great at maintaining their diet and health. Some people are very good at socializing. Some people are very good at advancing the career. Some people are very good at managing money. You figure out what you are good at. And if you're not good at certain thing, whether it's health or whatever it is, take help. And it doesn't cost much, but it will put you on the right path. When you have a dietitian, when you have a physical trainer, perhaps you're more regular. It is not the question you don't know much. You know everything. But that person bring you on the path.
Okay.
path.
So, and that's good advice. The other thing that I've come across is a lot of people want to invest directly into stocks because for whatever reason, they've seen people successfully invest during the COVID-19 pandemic. They think that they can emulate that. I don't know if you've experienced this yourself. People try their hand at F&O. They want a quick buck, maybe to fund something over the weekend, and they try to turn it around, but unfortunately you lose more money than you gain that way. Vijay, you want to explain the concept of unit economics and how somebody who wants to buy an MRF or a Page Industries, obviously with 6,000 rupees it's going to be difficult to do, but you can do that same thing if you invest in a mutual fund that holds it. The whole purpose, and I know that a lot of people invest into mutual funds thinking, oh, I can't manage my money, so let me give it to a professional manager. But the other aspect is less talked about, which is the fractionalization of that very asset that you're trying to buy and making it more affordable.
So I'll take it a little differently. For instance, youngsters working, they see their superiors making more money, the super superiors making more money, the CEOs making more money, and finally owners making more money. So in whichever industry you work, that is the way it works. So the equity market gives you opportunity, and a collective portfolio like managed asset, which is mutual fund or index, give you opportunity to participate in 50, 100, 200, 500 leading businesses. So you get fractional ownership of the 50 or 100 or 200 or 500 brains of India working for you. That ability is not available in direct stocks. Direct stock may create multi-baggers for you, but also the stocks can go down. And the challenges is that it is very honestly, it is a full-time job. Even the best of the fund manager have difficult times. So now we are fighting against those kind of guys. So it's very difficult for anybody who attempting to own stock directly and make big money. Consistently, they can't do it.
So I know that there has been criticism by a lot of people your age, and correct me if I'm wrong, please. The reason why I have you here is to correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Yeah.
Is that these projections of 12% compounded over the course of 20 years, it sounds incredible, but then you're going to be 20 years older when that comes to pass.
Yeah.
I still want you, Vijay, because you're a numbers guy. And if you're talking about this very illustration, paint us a picture, right? Because if you're talking about starting at 6,000 rupees, hopefully, Malika, you're going to get a fabulous increment, and you will continue to get a fabulous increment.
So.
And so therefore, to Vijay's point at the start, you're functioning without that additional money right now. And so when you get that additional money, you won't need all of it. And so you can save more of it than you spend.
Yeah.
So paint us a picture, Vijay. If you increment the 6,000 rupees over a period of time, where can that lead you, even if you keep your expectations grounded?
So just assume that the equity market is very simple product. It is GDP plus inflation is nominal GDP growth, and that is by that much percentage the earning of the corporate grows, and that is the way the equity market generates.
That's 10 to 12%.
10, whatever the number is, 12%, 15%,
Yeah.
it depends on how the economy is working. So just put that number, and on the top of it, what you can also do, suppose you're starting with 6,000 rupees. Now your saving has to be incrementally higher because you're starting with a very low base. So suppose next year, instead of 40,000, a salary become 50,000 rupees per month.
Yeah.
So 10,000 rupees, you should not only put 20% of that. So you should putting 50% of that, because you should think in a way that I got 30,000 rupees expenses. Now I got 5,000 rupees more to spend instead of 10,000 rupees. That 5,000 rupees is approximately 15% of her expenses. So that is enough to cover inflation.
Yeah.
But 6,000 to 5,000 rupees, 11,000 rupees takes almost double your saving potential. So if you end up doing this, if you end up incrementally, if you save more, then the engine of saving will create substantial wealth for you. And how do you judge you are a great investor? Not by multi-baggers and all that.
Consistent.
The first rule is that
Consistent.
you're saving enough to cover your expenses.
Yeah.
When you're reaching that goal, in a 5-year time, 7-year
Right.
time, 8 years time, that's the first goal. If your savings or investment income, average of last 5-6 years, is enough to cover your annual expenses, then you are free, then you're on fire mentality. Second leg is that, is your investment income enough to cover your total income from your professions and whatever you are.
Right.
Then you have a two-member earning member in your family. One is you're giving time and when your investment is growing. And third, when you reach a stage where your wealth become multiple of your annual earning, potentially that potential can be reached. And please keep in mind that most youngsters either don't like the job they are in, don't like the superior they are working with.
She likes both.
So I'm just not talking about. I'm talking in general. There's a feeling people have. That's why people keep changing jobs. Why they change jobs?
Yeah.
So they don't like. So if that is a question, then how many jobs you keep changing? So just look at you creating a corpus where you are financially more independent. When you're financially more independent, then your tendency to change job also goes down. Many times people change job because 20%, 30% hikes. And please remember, when you go at higher in the hierarchy, people will give you senior position not basis on your competence alone. It is also a factor of trust.
Yeah.
And the trust is known by working with you.
Yeah.
So like everything else, even in the corporate world, the longevity also compound. People, if you're working at one place for a long period of time, it really helps you to
It's very, very good advice. You have a question.
Yes, I have a question. So there are a couple of things that came in my mind when you were discussing this. The first thing, very recent thing, you spoke about job, right? And you talked about how being consistent with your job will also help you increment your savings and fortify that. I want to know, we youngsters today, unlike how my father worked, right? We come with a mentality that this is the time we have where we can experiment, where we can try different things to do. So for instance, I'll talk about media, right? If you're a good communicator, you can be a journalist, you can be a writer, you can be, say, a PR professional, you can go into celebrity management, you can be a stylist. There's so many options.
Yeah.
If you think about from the point of view ki nahi, I have to stay in my job because I have to be, I have to be disciplined with saving, then how will I give
Experience all of
myself
that.
the experience to experiment?
Yeah.
Because I feel, and a lot of youngsters would echo this, that we think our psychological age of or our psychological age limit of experimenting is 30. So till the time we turn 30, we're
Why?
like, we will
Because you'll
experiment.
be old at 30?
Yeah, we will be old at 30, and perhaps, I don't know, if people want to marry after that, maybe they'll marry. We'll get more responsibilities.
Vijay, real question.
So,
I think it's a relevant question, and don't change because of money only. If you like something, you want to pursue that thing, and this is what you want to do for maybe 5-10 years, pursue that. But also keep in mind that don't increase the expenses. That is very important. Suppose you are a TV journalist today, you want to go to celebrity management and you get hike, whatever it is, then also think of saving more and more. If you really want to experiment more, then you need to have more freedom. And how to acquire more freedom? When you say on one end that my expenses are rising up, then how do you counter that? So if you really want to experiment, if you really want to be smart enough, you need to figure out what is the number one priority. Number one priority is career advancement, or I want to experiment more. If that is the reason, then you need to, suppose I'm an athlete, suppose I'm a person, I want to play various sports, then I can't eat samosa and sleep.
And the other aspect is, by saving, Mallika, you are presenting yourself with a safety net to say that if that experiment does not work, you have something to fall back on. But if you didn't save, and if you don't have something to fall back on, the ability to experiment is limited. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And you feel more confident because you don't get swayed by just 10-20%. You really look at exciting opportunities because you're financially very secure. And why does today's kids are experimenting more? Lot depend on the kind of family they had.
Yeah.
Because the parents were very insecure because there was nothing in their hand.
And they put in the hard work.
They put in the hard work, and family size was very big. So the father was taking care of marrying all the sister in the families, all kind of stuff. Today you're, small families. Parents
and you're independent.
You're independent because you don't have many people don't have parental responsibility. On the contrary, parental money is going to come to them. But very interesting point I would like to make for the larger audience. First time ever in our recorded history, we are going to see our girl child going to inherit a lot of wealth.
I'm glad.
Wow.
So
Yes.
I don't know, are they prepared? Is the parents preparing them to handle the wealth, or the girls are preparing themselves to handle the wealth? That is a very, very important point.
And I'm glad you brought the perspective that you did, Mallika, and we've had a great conversation. Vijay, thank you so much for joining me today. Mallika, thanks so much for this
Thank you.
conversation. That brings us to the end of this conversation. But of course, there's so much more to talk about. I'm sure that you have points that you want to raise as well if you watch this entire episode. Don't forget to write into any one of our social media platforms and we will take it up. We will take it up in subsequent episodes, though. Thanks so much for watching.